Join us for a tour of the Mazda 3 in a new generation with the new Skyactiv-X engine. Let's go! Today we have a little sedan focus here. Most of the things are identical, hatch and sedan. It's just that the front grille here with the sedan has a more horizontal layout with those, let's say, horizontal dots, whereas the hatch has smaller round dots in the front grille. It's a minor detail. Headlamps start LED as standard. Optional matrix LED you can also get, and Soul Red Crystal is the color here for today. A very likable color and has, little nuances in there. So very strong one. I mean, works both for the hatch and for the sedan. The Mazda 3 Sedan, or Fastback how they call it, is 4.66 m, 183 inches or 15 foot 2. And that's about 20 centimeters or 8 inches longer than the Mazda 3 hatch. They have the very same wheelbase, it's just this rear overhang which is different, which will then result in a different trunk. We'll also tell you more about that later. And we'll also have some hatch shots, not headshots, hatch shots, so that you can actually compare the look a little bit. Which one would you actually go for, hatch or here the sedan? Well, the hatch is a little bit more dramatic in the rear design, but here this 3/4 rear perspective is also the chocolate side of the sedan somehow, with this floating line. Then more modern tail lamps if you compare it to the predecessor, and also chassis wise the chassis is stiffer now than the predecessor generation. As for the engines, let's start with the ones we do not have the focus on today. There's a 1.8 liter diesel with about 120 horsepower available, and then there's also a naturally aspirated petrol engine, 2 liter of displacement, are also about 120 horsepower, and both have about 10.5 seconds as for the acceleration to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. And both are available either with a 6-speed manual gearbox or with a 6-speed automatic gearbox. The diesel not as all-wheel drive, the petrol also not as all-wheel drive, at least for the Mazda 3. In the CX-30, the small, or let's say the low horsepower petrol engine is also available as all-wheel drive, but not here in the Mazda 3. Then, this year, the new Skyactiv-X, 2 liter of displacement, also a petrol engine, 180 horsepower, so 60 horsepower more than the other ones. This one here, available also as manual gearbox or with automatic gearbox. And here, both in the CX-30 and also in Mazda 3, here it would be the only with the all-wheel drive in this Mazda 3. So this one here also available with all-wheel drive. That is then front plus rear on demand, because this one is still a front-wheel driven platform. Today we have it with the front-wheel drive only. Recently with the CX-30 we also had the Skyactiv-X with the all-wheel drive. And here the acceleration figure is about 2 seconds faster, so around 8.5 seconds. Good build quality with soft edge inside of the doors. Then there's a leather red cover. You can also get the bright one, for example. Also good finish of the buttons here, of the window levers. Then this one is the optional Bose sound system. More speakers than the standard one, and it delivers actually a quite decent sound. Rather slim door pockets for bottles doesn't fit that well actually. And now we come to even more strength of this car. For example, here also a nice leather red cover for the top of the dashboard. This sporty steering wheel, and also with nice finish of those buttons. Those seats here, by the way, they are at the moment animal skin setup, but the base one comes with fabric, and that's just fine and also saves you money. And it stays cooler in summer and also warmer in winter. The comfort here is a little bit better than in the previous generation Mazda 3, so they worked on the ergonomics of this seat. Even better when you put it a little bit higher in the rear, then pelvis is a little bit more upright. Interior overview, a very clean layout here in this new generation, and a nice high-class leatherette use here, soft touch at the dashboard that goes all the way through horizontal. The upper dashboard is also soft touch. Standard setup is this 8.8-inch screen together with a 7-inch digital instrument in the middle part, outside analog. And this one here is also standard as it is, really cool, so no different size available and no touch whatsoever. They just rely on the central control knob, which is pro and con definitely, but safer while driving. That's definitely very nice. Soon also more details to this very screen. And again, head-up display also standard. This climate unit, and there's a standard one, then there's this automatic with this screen available, and here with a metal knurled knob, so high-class quality. That's really cool, and again a premium style element. Heated steering wheel is an option next to the heated seats, and the infotainment system up close, here with a central control knob. You can zoom in and out, that's easily done, and everything is actually rather intuitive. There's a hotkey then to get to the main menu that looks like this, and they kept it relatively simple and lean. If you want to go to the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto mode, you click right on the central control knob, and then you are in this mode, which is like really using all the way of the screen. And one more close up here at the digital instruments. Well, they are digital in the middle right there, and then left and right is actually analog, but it's kept relatively simple and clean, so overall satisfied with it. You can also change it to this one here that you can see a digital speed better. And as an alternative, you can see the digital speed here in the head-up display. Also a good view, good addition, good safety feature that you can just keep your line of sight on the center of the road, and you also have some GPS information in there then. Yeah, and then this is one of the disadvantages of this car. I mean, I can still fit here somewhat, but I do hit the back of the seat here with my knees. Also headroom wise, that works. Can put a hand over my head with one of these 86 or 6.1. So the trunk, of course the hatch is somewhat better as for loading in and out because it's just wider in here. But then the sedan has an advantage. Liter figure is 360 liters for the hatch. Here 450 liters for the sedan. That's of course just more because it's longer. And you remember the overhang was 20 centimeters longer, and that's exactly how this trunk is longer. So this is here 1 meters and 10, and the hatch is 90 centimeters in length. So that's then here, this part is the difference. You're more flexible than with the sedan. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge. Here, starting in Sofia, Bulgaria, the capital. And this is the first time I'm driving a car here actually. And again, best greetings to all fans from Bulgaria. It's quite good that we come around and visit all of your home countries. So it's also a little bit more variation for you. And I think always nice that at some point maybe we're in your home country and you can, see some roads or have been driving on and so on. So we start with a little bit of city traffic and so on. We head out to the countryside as well. All the different aspects we want to cover here. This one is the sedan we're driving this time because in the initial Mazda 3 review we had like a hatch focus. Also, with the CX-30 recently, we've been driving the Skyactiv-X for the very first time. Also tune into that review as a comparison. So I will also tell you a little bit more comparison to the Mazda CX-30, to that compact SUV on the very same platform. And here today the Skyactiv-X engine with manual drive and also with front wheel drive only, because last time we had it then as the all-wheel drive. So different comparison aspects we will also cover in this driving part. In general, first about the Mazda 3, what about sedan versus hatch? As I mentioned earlier, they have the very same wheelbase, so the agile driving handling is not too different. There's a little bit more overhang in the rear, so the weight balance is a little bit different, but it's not that you would feel much of it. I also asked the engineers if they would change any suspension settings. Some manufacturers put the Sedan a little bit softer as for the setting than the hatch or something, but they actually told me no, we just kept it the very same. So there is no difference then, or no major difference in driving hatch or the Sedan. You just have a longer trunk here. However, the hatch can be, easier loaded in and out. So those are the two major differences we also shown you in the interior part. So some dynamic impressions right here. We're going downhill first, and the first thing we notice again in those winding corners is that you have this natural driving feeling. Look at the steering. So it really gives me a good connection to the road. It doesn't feel exaggerated. It is progressive enough. I can keep my hands at the steering wheel. Don't have to, grab around for more steering input. And it's also not too light, so I have enough feedback from the steering wheel. So it doesn't feel like some of the new cars where we just steer in the air or so. You know what I mean? Also with the Skyactiv-X engine, I can keep it, for example, in the third gear, and even if we go uphill now a little bit and are already at some speed, I can just apply some more throttle and that's it, so I don't have to shift down immediately. That would be one thing, with the 120 horsepower petrol engine, that at some point, you might need to shift down earlier or something, The diesel has a little bit more torque, that's also a little bit more comfortable to drive, but the overall acceleration figures, they don't differ that much than between diesel and the Skyactiv-G. Here the Skyactiv-X, as I said, is a little bit faster. Well, 2 seconds faster is actually significant also in the acceleration figure. But again, also 180 horsepower, so also 60 horsepower more each than the other engines. And it's really a lot of fun. Remember, this is by the way, a hatch in front of us, also in this soul red crystal color. Is one of the most beautiful red colors on the market, I think. Look at those, color nuances, those shades that are also, in the design lines. That's really cool. And again, the driving feeling of the hatch and Sedan are somewhat similar. Is the hatch a little bit sportier from the feeling? Maybe on a very subjective note. It's of course a little bit better as for the weight balance, probably. Or is it? Then again, if you think about the engine is in the front, when you then have a little bit more overhang, might that even better for the weight balance? I guess we can only find it out when we put both of those cars on the racetrack and compare a lap time or so. But definitely both comparable, so it shouldn't be a matter of driving fun or so, that how you base your choice on. You just base it on if you want the trunk length, or if you say, I want the car to be shorter to be able to park in and out easier in the city, because the Sedan, of course, with this 20 centimeters longer, or like 8 inches, that is of course an issue maybe when parking in and out. But if you want to use more trunk, then of course this one here makes more sense, or just for putting in longer things, because as I told you earlier, exactly those 20 centimeters overhang are the 20 centimeters more length in trunk you also get. And now to our conclusion for today with the Mazda 3 in the new generation. Today with the little Sedan focus and the Skyactiv-X focus. First of all, in general, it's a great price-performance deal. That's the main thing about the Mazda 3 here in the new generation, especially because it has so much standard equipment. Just remember again, head-up display, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitor. This is, actually a lot of extra in price usually for the most vehicles. Then the same size for the infotainment system, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and so on. So pretty cool as for that package. Then hatch or sedan, they drive relatively similar. It's really the question, do you want 20 centimeters longer trunk or 8 inches longer trunk? Or do you rather want, a little bit more flexibility when parking in and out? So that's the basic question about that. The driving experience in general is really good. Stable and stiff, also some sportier feeling than the previous generation, yet the suspension is not super hard, so it's rather set on a comfortable tone, but overall a good setup definitely, and a natural steering feeling. Exterior, very likable design, modern design, and pretty fresh colors. That works very well. The interior design is also clean and modern. There's no touchscreen control. Some might like it, some don't. I got along with it pretty well. Yes, for the address input, that would be cool to use a touch for that. But other than that, most of the other functions are still very well to control, especially then while driving. So overall, they have designed the interior also in a very functional way. The new Mazda 3 does not have too much room in the rear compartment. That's maybe one of the downsides of this car. As for the engines that are available, best price performance deal with the entry-level petrol engine, very crisp and nice manual gearbox, so one of the rare cars where I would recommend a manual gearbox actually. The Skyactiv-X adds some more agility in driving, and yet, as we could prove today, it seems to have the very same fuel consumption than the weaker horsepower petrol engine. That's then the advantage of this new technology. So equal consumption, although you have more power. Today's result was about 6 liters on 100 kilometers, which is, towards the 40 mpg regions US or even higher than mpg UK. Overall, I think a very positive ride, especially considering the price. Yes, the Skyactiv-X, of course, more expensive than the base petrol engine. So always a question on, how much money you want to spend. But overall, I think a pretty solid presentation here this car gave to us. And I hope our presentation was also very solid to you. So please tune in next time. Subscribe if you haven't done so far. And see you here at Autogefühl.